Hi, and welcome to the latest edition of Penguin Shootout on Herald-Standard.com. I'm your host, Rob Burchianti. With me again, as usual, Herald-Standard.com sports writer Derek Day. And today, we're going to have a lot of discussion about, unfortunately, the Philadelphia Flyers, because the Flyers beat the Penguins in the last. The Penguins went 2-2 since our last show, and they did defeat the Penguins. The Flyers did defeat the Penguins, and the Flyers also took part in the Winter Classic, which that's a tough one. I wasn't sure who to root for in that one. Actually, I was, because I don't like the Rangers much either, New York team.
No.
But you have to root against the Flyers.
If this was 10 years ago, I would be rooting for a tie.
Yeah.
But they only get 1 point each.
But I was clearly rooting for the Rangers, and they did defeat the Flyers actually it was the lowest rated Winter Classic so far, TV rating. I think this was the 5th one, and the Penguins did pretty well last year with the Capitals, but it seems like the Flyers and Rangers couldn't quite captivate the country as well as the Penguins did, so they're just not quite as popular no matter how they want to look at it. But the Flyers did lose to the Rangers 3-2. It's a pretty good game, but we're going to get into that a little bit later. Right now we're just going to recap what the Penguins have done. They had 4 games, as I said, since our last show. They started out with 2 wins. They defeated the Jets, Winnipeg Jets, 4-1, and then they defeated the Carolina 4-2. Then came the Flyers game, 4-2 loss. The Penguins scored very early in that game, and then they couldn't build on that momentum. What do you remember most about that game?
It was definitely electric atmosphere, and the Boo Birds were out in full force with Jaromir Jagr coming back to Pittsburgh, this time debuting as a Flyer, since he had obviously been in Pittsburgh on the opposing team before with Washington and the New York Rangers. But it was the animosity towards Jagr was even more ramped up than usual based on the off-season escapades of him saying he wants to come to Pittsburgh, and then other teams got into the mix as far as wanting to sign Jagr, and then eventually Ray Shero and the Penguins withdrew their offer, which was reportedly around $2.5 or $2.2 million, somewhere in there.
I think even Jagr's agent said his heart was in Pittsburgh or something like that.
Yeah,
the day before he signed.
Made it this big love story, like he wanted to finish his career in Pittsburgh, something like that, and he ended up signing with Philadelphia. I think I've heard somewhere it was in the range of $3.3 million for 1 year. So who knows? This might start all over again next off season if. Yeah,
because he has a 1-year contract. Is that what he has with the Flyers?
I'm pretty sure it's a 1-year contract this year, so he might be going after more teams for more money. He's having a pretty good year, actually. And
yes, he is. That's the one thing we forget about. Jagr is doing pretty well. But don't you think he was kind of yanking the Pence chain a little bit? It seemed like to me he never really wanted to go there. But I think he just hasn't some sort of animosity towards Pittsburgh the way he left, and he's still, even though he doesn't say he does, I almost feel like he purposely kind of yanked the chain, like I might come back, and then he just he signs with their most bitter rival. I don't know. Did you get that feeling at all?
I was maybe kind of hoping that he had changed his ways after being over in Russia in the KHL for 3 years, but it's something fishy's going on. Why all of a sudden we heard there for a while it was Detroit, Pittsburgh, then Philadelphia comes in at the last minute, and there was a period of time when nobody knew if Jagr was even in the United States, or he'd flown over from his home in Czech Republic or somewhere in Europe, that region, and it just has a lot of twists and turns, and only him and maybe his agent will know what really happened.
Well, unfortunately, Jagr did score a goal, and he played very well against the Penguins, and he scored 1 goal. And
Talbot did too.
And there was also another former Penguin in the game. Let's talk about him. He got a completely different reaction. Maxime Talbot, when he was introduced, I think they even played a video a capsule of some of his top plays with the Penguins.
Yeah, there was a big video tribute to Max Talbot during one of the TV breaks, and it's actually pictures of him like you could see it in newspapers and such as ours. I remember seeing that in our edition from that date, but he stood up on the bench and acknowledged the crowd, because they knew the fans knew what Max brought to the table for the Penguins, and it wasn't a matter of him spurning the Penguins to go sign with the Flyers. I mean, I think he was just maybe too much money, and they already had too much money for their plans, and they already had several other players kind of fit that mold between Aaron Asham and Craig Adams, not so much, and more of a grinder. I guess he was more of a penalty killer, and I guess they thought they could fill his shoes with what they already had in the roster, and just elected not to re-sign Talbot, who actually got the empty net goal that sealed the Penguins' fate in that game.
Because the Pens, they scored very quickly. I think it was Kunitz from Kennedy, maybe. Was that I think that was the first goal, really in the first opening minute, and then the Flyers ended up scoring 3 straight. Penguins came back and made it 3-2, and were threatening at the end. And then, of all the people, it was Maxime Talbot who got the empty netter at the end. One thing about that game is the Flyers all these games are important now, and especially the Flyers, and I'm going to look at the standings real quick. The Rangers are on top right now thanks to their win over the Flyers. Philadelphia's second and Pittsburgh's third. So all these games against your Atlantic rivals are very important right now. Rangers have 52 points, Philly's at 48, and the Penguins are at 46, and they've played one more game than the Rangers and Flyers. And lurking right below Pittsburgh is New Jersey with 44 points. And actually, when you look at the way it's breaking down at the playoffs, the Penguins aren't that far out of being out of the playoffs the way it is. It's pretty tight. What do you see from the Penguins? They still have, I guess the main concern right now, you still have all the injuries. You still have Crosby out. Latanga's still out. I mean, they're still trying to get all the defensemen back. Is that all it's going to take right now, or what do you think?
By the looks of things, almost like they'll need to step up their game in addition to getting healthy. I mean, not only from the players that are still healthy, but once the other players get back, Crosby, Letang, Richard Park has resumed skating, so he might be back. Obviously, a third, fourth line type of guy. And but there are still other injuries. Adams left the game the other night, and so did Aaron Asham, I believe, against New Jersey. And they're kind of day-to-day, as is Pascal Dupuis for, I believe it's a lower body injury. But yeah, the injuries keep coming. It sounds like a broken record on here, saying who's injured and who's healthy. But I mean, it's just a sad reality that 2011 wasn't a kind year for the Penguins as far as injuries go. But Robert Bortuzzo, who had been a call-up from Wilkes-Barre, been out with a concussion. He had resumed skating as of this morning.
Yeah, could use every healthy body that can get back. I didn't know if I noted, but I said the Penguins went 2-2 after the Flyers lost. I mentioned the Devils are right behind them. They lost. They did lose at New Jersey 3-1. Also, that's how they went.
Yeah, New Year's Eve matinee game.
Yeah, 2-2. I don't know if you caught. Did you catch any of the Winter Classic or some of it?
I caught the highlights. I think I got enough of the gist of it to make some commentary on it. But
it's funny how this game goes. The Winter Classic, it's got that movable time. They were supposed to go at 1, but I guess the weather wasn't quite right at 1, and they were waiting for it to cooler or whatever, and they waited. I think it started at 3, I believe, and I got to see bits and pieces of it, but I guess there was some complaints about the officiating.
Well, from what I heard, from what I understand, at the end of the game, it looked like, from what I saw and catching the highlights, they looked like it was a very exciting game. Former Penguin Mike Rupp scored 2 goals, and Brad Richards scored the go-ahead goal in the third period. And with the Flyers down 3-2 in the closing minutes, there was a shot. Henrik Lundqvist makes a save for the Rangers. His pad is just right here, right on top of the puck. The puck is on edge. Mm-hmm. And then a Ranger player comes diving in, kind of dives on top of Lundqvist's leg. Well, you can't cover the puck. A skater can't cover the puck in the crease. It's an automatic penalty shot. Now what I understand, they can bat the puck out of the goal crease, but they can't cover it up. And Danny Briere takes a penalty shot with 19 seconds left, and Lundqvist comes up big. I mean, he's the rock of that team. And,
yep, Henrik Lundqvist. Yep, he's the goalie I want if my life's on the line and you're coming in. That's the guy I want. That's the guy I went up there. But yeah, it was pretty. It was a lot of controversy according to, but according to the rule that I read, it seemed like it should have been a penalty. But then Tortorelli, the Rangers coach, said the officiating was horrible, and he's always talking about things
he's
like
never
that.
happy. But yeah, you mentioned the ratings. Yeah. I think that has a lot to do with not so much. It's obviously a lot of factors. I mean, the Penguins have a lot of fans. They're a big draw, as are the Capitals, at least in that in the Baltimore, Washington, Maryland area. But I think a lot of it has to do with the time, not just the time of day, but it was January 2nd. It was traditionally New Year's Day is when the the Winter Classic is. Well, New Year's Day fell on a Sunday this year.
NFL football is on Sunday.
They don't want to go up against the NFL.
College bowl games too. So it was like this. January 2nd was really your usual January 1st. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. So I mean obviously they don't want to, like I said, don't want to go up against the NFL. Against the TV, they just get blown out of the water with that in terms of ratings. And like I said, the two teams aren't necessarily. I mean, they have a big market with New York and Philadelphia, but I think a lot of it do not on the New Year's Day, that part, but look at the holiday standpoint. I mean, a lot of people were back to work on January 2nd,
yep.
And
my kids had to go back to school January 2nd, and they weren't happy about that.
Yeah, I mean you got who's going to watch? You can't really take off to watch a hockey game like that in the middle of the day. I mean, some people would obviously, but I think what the goal is to get make hockey mainstream. They need to keep it on a day when people are kind of at home relaxing and things of that nature, where they can just plop down in front of the TV and, oh, this looks pretty cool, hockey game on. So
yeah,
I think that had a lot to do with it, maybe more so than people give it credit.
Yeah, well, we're going to look, looking forward, we're going to look at who the Penguins are playing. But first of all, we're going to go over the stats real quick, some of their leaders, as we usually do. There's still the same 6 guys that have played every game so far. That would be James Neal, Chris Kunitz, Pasquale Dupuis, Steve Sullivan, Matt Cook, and Craig Adams. They still got those guys healthy every game. Goals, it's still James Neal with 21. And second is Malkin has 15, as does Jordan Stahl. And in assists, Malkin has 28 to lead. Letang is still second on the team, even though he's missed 16 games with 16 assists. And James Neal is third with 15 assists. Point-wise, Malkin has 43. He's leads the team, and he's tied for 5th in the league. Claude Giroux has 46 to lead the league. James Neal has 36 points. Kunitz has 26. He's third on the team. Dupuis has 25. Jordan Stahl has 21. Plus minus number 1 is Dupuis with 10, plus 10. Niskanen is plus 9, and Crosby still plus 7 is third on the team in plus minus. I also want to note that Neal is tied for 4th in the league in goals. Stamkos has 26.
So you think Neal is all-star caliber, all-star material?
Yeah, that's another thing we got to touch on real quick. Let's just go to that. That's enough for the stats right now. Who are you going to vote for? Who are the all-stars on this team? And if you had to vote, who would you put on your ballot?
Well, I mean, if you look at the vote tallies online, there are 6 players from each conference, or each team. Let's say, I don't know if they're still doing that fantasy draft style that they did last year, where all the all-stars are just in a pool and then they pick them up almost like a backyard game. But anyway, I mean, if you look on those fan votes, the top six players from each side are voted in by the fans.
Right.
In each conference.
You can do that online.
Yeah, and Crosby is still way up there. He's only played 8 games, and I mean he has almost last I looked only almost half a million votes. But I mean, if you're talking healthy players, my picks, because the Penguins are missing so many, I'd pick Fleury. I mean, he's been one consistent factor of the Penguins. James Neal. And even Malkin. I mean, he's just on a torrid pace right now. So that's about it.
I'd say those are their top 3 guys, and I hope all 3 get on. Real quick, we'll look at the upcoming schedule to see what we're going to be talking about next week. The Penguins on Friday play. They host the Rangers, and they host the Devils, and they host the Senators Friday, Saturday, and then the Senators are on Tuesday. So a couple big games against the Rangers and Devils coming up.
Yeah, key stretch with divisional opponents. They really need to kick it into gear here. They've dropped 2 in a row to divisional opponents between the Flyers and Devils, and you got to make hay when the sun shines. You play divisional teams that are so-called 4-point games, where you can gain a lot of ground in the standings if you win those games.
So we'll tell you what happened in those games on the next edition of Herald-Standard.com's Penguins Shootout. Until then, Happy New Year, everybody.